just for the audience to know you a bit more. I'm sure, although you don't need a proper introduction. However, I'll just go ahead and introduce Dan for all of you. So,
Yes.
Daniel is popularly known as Dan, and he is a 5 times TEDx speaker and a 3 times entrepreneur, as well as a startup coach. Coming back to his academic background, he completed his bachelor's in economics from the Yale University, post which he went on to do his master's in business administration from the Trinity College of Dublin. On ground, he has been a founder of various multiple startups, and he's also helping individuals as well as government initiatives with a lot of their, work and initiatives with respect to the ministry, parliament, etc. Uh, he is a global MC and a speaker and covers over 100 events in a year. And he has had the pleasure to be hosting change makers and revolutionary leaders like President Barack Obama, billionaire founders like Sir Richard Branson, and many more. I guess I can just keep going on. However, I think I'll just pause here. And I think over to you, Dan. Do you want to add on to something that I might have missed or anything?
Yes, the most important part. The reason I do all of this is to help people start now, start simple. Like, it's
Right.
amazing to be on the big platforms. It's amazing to be on television. It's amazing to be on radio. I feel so blessed because I am like everybody else who's watching. I'm just an ordinary person that is very privileged to be living quite an extraordinary life. And so I want to be an enabler, what I call an igniter. I want to help ignite everybody. That's why even on a Saturday afternoon after a busy day, so close to Christmas, I'm like, let's do this. If I can inspire 5 people, 7 people, 9 people, one person today, it's worth it. And so that's why I do what I do, is to help everybody make the best use of their one life that they have on this planet. And the one way to do that I can help is to start now, start simple.
Perfect. Thank you so much for letting the audience know that as well. And I have seen a lot of your work, and I'm sure, I mean, probably on Instagram, on LinkedIn, as well as I think you've also come up with a very great initiative of the Start Now Start Simple award as well for different
Yeah.
categories. Yeah, yeah. So that's amazing, Dan. So before I probably start asking you a bit more of technical questions, Dan, can you just run us by your journey of how everything started with respect to public speaking, your passion for it, and everything around that?
Fear and accident. Let's
Okay,
start with the fear.
right.
As a child, I was a very introverted, shy, nerdy, antisocial child. In fact, my parents bought me animals and pets because I loved animals way more than I liked humans. So until the age of about 12 or 13, I would always talk to animals, never talk to people. And I was very focused on my books, very focused on my studies. I think around the age of 13, I started noticing that I was struggling to make friends. And in fact, even my principal called my parents and said, you know what? It's really lovely that Danny's little sister meets him every day for lunch, but he needs to make friends his own age. So
Mm,
that was how antisocial I was, that my own little sister would leave her friends to come hang out with her older brother and give me company. And so I started thinking, okay, what do the cool kids, the successful kids have in common? I realized the communication was part of that. And so for me, it was actually by observing, by watching, and just by absorbing, right? So it's not that I was naturally a good communicator. I just saw, how do they make a joke? How do they get attention? How do they stand? How do they use their eyes to make a connection? And I just started trying and trying and trying. So the fear,
mm-hmm.
failure,
Right.
lack of was what drove me to it. I was like, this is a place I'm empty. How do I learn? And so I started paying more attention, probably more than others, which is why I think I have risen through the ranks. It's not because it's natural to me, it's just because I've spent hours and hours and hours from the age of 13 just watching TEDx talkers, watching coaches, watching movie stars. How do they communicate? How do they share? And so I'd say that's one thing. And I said the second part was accident, which is when I graduated from college, I knew that I wanted to have an impact, but I didn't know how. So I started working for the UN. From the
Okay.
UN, I realized this is a big organization, very powerful, but they're not having the kind of grassroots impact I like. So then I started working for World Vision, which was working with children right in their towns. That
Mm-hmm.
was good, but I met a lot of people who were burnt out. And I was like, these are people with passion, but they have no strategic long term focus. Who does that? Then I realized, let me go to do an MBA, and that's where I will learn that. When I did MBA, I realized, wow, business has a lot of impact. It's not just the charities and the nonprofits and non-organization, nonprofit organizations, it's also businesses. So
Right.
then I started working with like KPMG and larger companies. Then I realized they're big, but they don't have that fast, agile, here's an opportunity, let's jump on an attitude. Who does that? Startups. So then I started building some startups. Some of the startups were successful. Then I switched over to investing. Some of those investments and the startups were successful. So then I started talking on radio. I started talking on television. So I started having more public. Then I became more national level, where the government of Ireland said, Dan, can you come and advise us on national policy on entrepreneurship? But as you can see, it was just like asking questions and going with the waves. There was no plan. I never thought as a child I'd be doing this. In fact, anyone who knows me as a child is as shocked as I am that this is my career.
Right.
And even getting there was just by asking questions. Where's the problem? How do I solve? Where's the problem? How do I solve? And so it was totally, totally by accident. And it was just through all of these different things that I ended up on a stage at a tech event, and it clicked. And I was like, this is it. This is the life calling. But that happened at the age of 31. That didn't happen at the age of 13 or 16 or 21 or 24, or anybody that's listening and going, oh, that's nice, Dan. You figured it out so early. No, I figured out at the age of 31 what made me truly come alive. But I kept trying all along the way. I kept asking questions all along the way.
Right. Perfect. I think that's been quite of a journey, and I think, yeah, just as you said, probably this wasn't something planned, and just because it wasn't that planned, I think, Dan, you've been enjoying the journey so far, and you're taking it as it's coming. Because, as you
Yes,
said, you never knew that this is what you would be doing. But yeah,
never.
never. Yeah, exactly. So that brings me to asking you, Dan, while you probably started and decided, even though it was at the age of 31, that you want to probably do this, and this is something that you want to do for the rest of your life as a profession, and it aligns with your passion, how did you overcome the fear and the insecurities from the past? Because I'm sure they existed. And for a lot of people here, I feel one thing which is common for a lot of people, not just in India, but all across the globe, is the fear of facing people, speaking in front of a crowd, and having that confidence to not be judged, and just be yourself. So, how did you go about doing that and establishing grounds there?
That is a great question. I think you have, because it's a complex question, I need to give you a variety of answers because there isn't one formula. And I think with any challenge that anybody has, don't look for the magic golden key. It doesn't exist. It usually is a variety of different things, little things that you're doing that add up. So I'll give you a couple of things. First of all, I don't focus on the numbers. I think I focus on self. How do I bring my best self forward? So it doesn't matter. Like, I have not checked how many participants are watching this because it doesn't matter. What I'm thinking is, and that's why when I logged in, I left and I came back because I realized that my nose was a little bit stuffy because I was doing all those carpets and all of that, a little bit of allergy. My hair wasn't as nice as I wanted it to be. And I was like, you know what? Let me get my best self and I'm going to come back again. And so to me, I think that's one of his. I don't focus on the numbers. I don't focus on the size of the stage. I'm just focusing on how to bring my best self because then it's immaterial who's watching. I know I've given 100%. And the second thing is I think I always focus on the individual, not the collective. So to me right now, the most interesting person in my life at this moment is you. There's nothing else that is on my mind. I mean, we had the party earlier today. I'm not thinking about that. I've got a couple of things I'm doing afterwards. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just so present with the person that's in front of me. And the same thing happens on stage. If I've got 5,000 people, I am so focused on the conversation I'm having with whoever's on stage with me or whoever's on the front row. That's why I make so much eye contact. I'm not thinking, whoa, there's 5,000 people. How do I capitalize on this? Whoa, there's 10,000 people. Are they all going to add me on Instagram? Those are all distractions. That's not the focus. I'm focused on the person that's in front of me. So I'd say those are two small hacks is what are you focusing on? Because a lot of people are anxious because they're focusing on the wrong thing. They're focusing on, am I prepared enough? Instead of focusing on the negative, I go, what can I do to be my best? So it's not like, oh, I didn't get a chance to change. And I realize now that my red is kind of bleeding into my purple background. But I'm like, that doesn't matter. I'm going to make sure the best thing I can do is the content, not the look right now. And that's okay. I'm going to keep moving ahead with that. So I'm focused on how do I bring my best self forward. I'm always focused on the person that's in front of me, the one person, the two people, the five people, not the thousands, the tens of thousands. I also think there's a bunch of things you can do, and this is just really practical. So that was kind of like the abstract. Here's practically what you can do. Breathing exercises, they help a lot.
Yeah.
It really helps you to calm down, to focus, to be present. So I just close my eyes and I breathe in for 4 seconds. I feel my lungs, I feel my breath. I hold it for 4 seconds and I release it for 4 seconds. And I increase the release. So I inhale for 4, hold for 4, I increase to 6 seconds. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, increase to 8 seconds. I'll keep doing it until I get to 30 seconds or 40 seconds even. And just that process of focusing on the beat and the breath and, in through the nose and out through the mouth, I find so relaxing. I also do these things like affirmations, because either you will listen to the negative thoughts in your head or you plant the positive thoughts in your head. So I'll say, Dan, you've had a great day, but this is the best moment of today. Let's go. Or Dan, it might be the weekend, but people want your energy. They don't want you chilling on the couch reading a book. They want energized Dan. So bring them energy. So I speak what I want to be. Because right before this, that's not what I was doing. Right before this, I had my leg up. I was on the couch reading a book. I was not standing and giving energy to a camera. So you got to speak what you want to be. And so I find that really good. I find small things like drinking water, doing some stretches, like arm stretches, power poses. So these are some practical things. I'm sure you can Google it online, or if you watch my content on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, I'm always sharing my pre-game routine. So this is the game. I'm playing the game. I'm the best player in the game right now. But what's important is that game did not start when I joined Zoom. That game started about 3 hours ago. What was I doing then to prepare for this moment? So those are some practical / macro things on your question.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. So, Dan, thank you for that answer. And I really feel, as you said, the pre-preparatory steps which go in to till the moment you're there and you're giving it all. And it's not just about the energy; it's also about the vibe, the kind of connect that you build with your audience and the speaker, etc. And I think that all comes across very clearly the moment you're there on camera. I think that's where the magic happens for you, because there's a lot which goes in behind the process. So yeah, thank you so much for that. And I think this one other thing that I would really like to know is, okay, now when the process is done, when you understood that this is your calling, I want to do this, and it was just, I mean, you get onto a stage and you love it. However, turning it into a full-time profession is something, Dan, which not many people have been able to do, at least not as
Yes.
successfully as you have been able to do. Moreover,
Yes.
how did you start networking with the right set of people, finding the gigs for yourself, or finding those events where you started getting being called for emceeing, for hosting, etc. So how did that process come into place?
Another great question. I love it. You're full of really good questions. So thank you for that. Let me give you the macro answer and then I'll give you the micro answer. Okay.
Okay.
Macro answer: follow purpose, let passion fuel it. The finances always come. I never chase money. I'm telling you, I'm not saying this to boast. I'm saying this as reality. Money's chasing me. It's not the other way around. So I don't set financial goals and go, oh, I really wish to earn it. I'm actually shocked. So this year, and I've shared openly about this on Instagram, this year I have more than double my income from last year. And I didn't realize that till about 2 weeks ago. That's what I mean by money chases me, not me chasing money. I didn't realize it until I was going through the books and I was like, whoa, this is insane. Like, I didn't realize how much money it made this year. So I'm not saying that to boast. I'm just being very real about it.
True.
And anyone who's been following me online knows I've just done what I love every single day. A lot of it for free. So when my career ended in March, so as an in-person MC for physical events, that stopped happening, right, in March because
Right.
of the pandemic.
Right.
When travel stopped, which is necessary for me to go and earn my money, my
Exactly.
career ended. And what did I do? I pulled up my 2-year-old laptop, used the crappy webcam on that, and I did 40 days of interviews. You know how many of those were paid? None of them. Do you know how much it cost me? A lot. I did it anyway. But it was just passion. It was just purpose. I was like, my purpose is help people start now, start simple. So if I cannot go to an event to do that, if I cannot meet hundreds of people to do that, where can I do that? Oh, I'll just do it with my Facebook group, my Instagram group, my crowd that's already here. Why can't I not inspire them? So you follow purpose, and then the passion follows. Because for me, if you are aligned with the big reason that you exist, it wakes you up every morning. So even though there was so much negativity, and I'm telling you, like everyone else, every day we looked at the numbers. How many people got COVID? How many people died? And it was such a hard time. But the it was hard to be passionate about what's going on in the world. But because I had this nighttime show every evening to go, okay, I've got to prepare for that. My
Hmm.
passion went there rather than to how many more people have died. How much more lockdown do we have? Oh no, in India we cannot even leave our houses anymore. It's so unfair. In America, my friends can still hang out. That was not where my mind was. My mind was, let me focus on the purpose. Let me focus on the purpose. And those shows led to some opportunities. Those opportunities, bigger opportunities, bigger opportunities. And then I ended up traveling again. I ended up hosting again. To me, this is like the most wild thing. How do I get to travel? I didn't chase it. I'm telling you now, I don't want COVID. I'm with my parents, so I don't want them to get it. I feel very responsible for them. And I was like, I don't want to travel. And yet the opportunity lined up.
Hmm.
So when you follow your purpose, passion comes. When you are passionate about your purpose, people throw money at you. I'm telling you that because I did not reduce my prices this year. In fact, increased my prices. And not just that, I've doubled my team. Do you know what happens when you double your team? Your expenses go up.
Expenses go up. Yeah.
And and I also took some risks. We built out a studio and all of this stuff, and still we made more money, and still we made more profit. So the big macro picture is don't chase the money,
Right.
don't even chase the financial targets. Make sure that when people see you, they go, that is a man, that is a woman, that is a teenager, that is a student, that is a neighbor, that is a cousin, that is an uncle who is waking up aligned with why they exist on this planet. I'm telling you, people will come and throw money at you. There's something so there's something that just draws people to such personalities. Because I noticed that with kids who are even 8 or 9 years old, they have no idea what I do as a job, but they're drawn to me because they can see that I'm alive. They see that unlike all the other people my age, I wake up excited, and they're drawn to that. And they cannot articulate it. They don't know what it is, but there's something about our human instinct that is drawn to people who are passionate. So I would say, don't be passionate about money. Don't be passionate about career. Don't be passionate about title. Be passionate about living your purpose, and money will follow.
Yeah.
Um, that's the big macro thing. Now let's talk about the micro of practically how
Hmm.
do you build a business? Because that's the question, right?
Right.
So there's a few pieces here. Being on stage, in fact, is the easier part, and that's the part that is easy to get excited about.
Hmm.
The hard part is the foundations that are required to sustain that. Because most people have an emceeing opportunity in their college or at a family event, but it doesn't turn into a career. And right now, I would say I'm probably in the top 1% of the speakers and MCs in the world when it comes to like business and income and all of that.
Right.
And that I would say is because of the fundamentals. For example, we get a lot of inquiries. I
Hmm.
have a system for managing that. So we use HubSpot. It's a CRM system, and every single person that puts an inquiry in goes in there. Now, most people have not done that. Maybe they check their emails, maybe they bookmark the emails, maybe they leave the emails unread. But the problem with that is when you send an email back saying, here's a quote, you get 20 other inquiries, and that person does not come back with a quote or a yes or no, you forget about it.
Hmm.
And I don't have that because I have a system for it. Same with like project management. We have in our, because every client is different, but I have streamlined it. I go, here's the inquiry phase. The inquiry phase goes into a conversation with Dan. The conversation with Dan goes into a scoping. The scoping goes into a proposal. The proposal goes into negotiation. The negotiation goes into a contract. The contract then has to be signed. After the signing comes the invoice. After the first invoice comes the work. After the work comes and we've got a 12-step plan, and it's clearly written out. And that way I can, in my project management system called Notion,
Hmm.
every single client I work with, you mentioned in the introduction about 100 events a year. So
Yeah.
that's maybe about 70 events. We track it. So right now, I can tell you all 70 people, where are they in that 12-step program? So you need to have a system behind it. This is all the business behind it. Besides that, I'm very fortunate to love reading business books, social behavior books, personality books, because business is all about people. So if I can excite you about running an event and trusting me, I can lock in the deal better than if I'm awkward or weird on screen. If I can get you to laugh and smile, you feel more comfortable and more positive about the opportunity of collaborating. If
True.
it's a very stern meeting of, hey, nice to see you here. You mentioned, you sent me an email. What was the email about? Like, even that is off. But I say, hey, you wrote to me, 2-day event. That's amazing. Tell me, what's the plan? Boom, they're in. They're like, this guy knows what he's talking about. But if I say, what was your email about? Or, oh, let me see, let me check my email. Anything like that doesn't work. So this all comes down to human behavior, psychology. I love reading this stuff. So you need to have the people skills to lock in deals, to deal with difficult situations because everything changes all the time in the event world. There's all that back end, and this is an area of constant learning. For me, I've committed for my whole life to be learning this stuff. It's not like here are the blocks, learn it, and you're fine. It's about constant evolution and learning.
Okay. Perfect. I think, well, I wasn't aware of, using HubSpot as a CRM for, probably managing everything around the inquiries which you get in. And as you said, I think not many people are doing that. Notion is still okay. I've heard of it. However, the way you just spoke about and broke down the process into 12 steps and how everything's getting streamlined, I think that's where everything is so smooth and pipeline and streamlined for you because you've got a process in place for everything, an amazing team that's working with you alongside you. And I think you're all driven towards that one purpose. And as you said, helping others and igniting others and helping them probably find their purpose. And that's the reason I think, Dan, has just been a very smooth journey for you. And I love the energy and the passion with which you, probably just come in. It's just amazing. Like you can feel the vibe right through the camera, and not even, not being present in person. I can only imagine if anybody is meeting you physically in person, it would be a different ball game altogether. Like, yeah, I'm totally sure about that.
I hope so. But virtual's not a bad place. I mean, we always
Yeah,
think that in person is like the top and virtual. Like I keep reminding myself and others that
right.
more people will interact with the digital version of you than the real version of you. It's
True.
just a reality because of the size of it. So when I make an Instagram story, there's way more people that will see that than might join this podcast or the Zoom call, and that's just a reality of it. So
Yeah.
I think virtual is a beautiful space. I think it's a great space. But yes, it is different, because maybe I look a little bit shorter in real life than I might do here. There's going to be some differences, but also there's a lot more like body language, right? So when we're sitting and chatting, it's probably an easier transition in conversation
Right.
than it is virtually because you have less to work with here. So yes, there are differences between the two, but I'd like to think that the heart's still the same, and I'd like to think that the energy's still the same. Maybe how it manifests looks different virtually and physically.
Yeah, perfect. Great. So before I start taking up the questions from the audience, while they'll drop it in the chat box, Dan, there's this one last thing. So for everyone who's on the call, feel free to drop in any questions with respect to communication skills, emceeing, public speaking, or anything that you would probably want to know more about in depth from Dan. Meanwhile, just this one last question from my side, Dan. Uh, now
Sure.
that what I feel, is the major problem, as I did mention previously as well. How did you probably detach yourself from the fact that the audience who's going to probably be, the viewers of my content or whatever I'm delivering or speaking about? How did you detach your emotions from it in the sense that if someone criticizes it or if there are people judging it, because people will always do it, how do you not let it get to your head and still keep up that confidence going?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I think that, especially these days, if you put yourself out there in
Mm,
any career, even on social media,
right.
you have to get comfortable with people not approving or liking you or understanding. And for a people pleaser like myself, that's actually very challenging. I want everybody to love me. I want everybody to understand me. I'm only doing things from a good place in my heart, and I want everyone to agree with that.
Mm,
As the reality is, that's not how everybody thinks. And when you live in an online world where people don't necessarily know you,
mm,
it can be hard to get that approval. Whereas if it's say you're like, people who can see every day, they can understand the context because context is often missing online. So the rare time that I might do a video of like a car that I'm driving, I might get a little bit of hate. But anyone who knows me knows that that's not my personality at all to show off the houses I live in and the cars that I have or anything. That's just not my personality. But
Right.
when it's just the one video and they go like, oh, there's another guy talking about what he owns, I go like, actually, you missed the point because that's once in 2 years that I've even revealed what car it is. And that's it's also not about the car because maybe this is a car I'm donating to charity, but you did miss that because all you see is another entrepreneur with a car. So I'm just saying, if you put yourself out there, even if you vocalize, even if it's not social media, you just tell yourself, your friends, I have a dream to do this. And they'd be like, really? So this is very common. This happens all the time. And sometimes it's very close to home. It might be your own parents, it might be your own siblings, it might be your best friends that put you down.
Yeah.
I think I think you just got to ask yourself a couple important questions. Question number 1, when you die, which you will, guaranteed, what do you want your legacy to be? Do you want your legacy to be, yes, this person gave up on their dreams to make other people happy? Or do you want your legacy to be, this person lived with no qualms, no fear, no uncertainty, no no self-obsession. They
Mm.
just lived to serve others, to love others, and they did it without holding back. Like which one sounds better to you? I'd say that's one question. Like, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be? Another question would be, if you knew how long you had to live, would you postpone? Would you wait for the approval of other people? Or would you just go ahead with it? And I think most people forget that we have a countdown clock. Like right now, I have less, like 30 minutes less time to my life than I did before this call started. So if I wanted to do something, now thankfully, this call was what I wanted to do today, and that's why I'm giving time to it. But if I wanted to do something else, why would I wait to get everybody's acceptance and blessings first? Like, who do I owe that to? Because they're not the one that's going to expand or extend the amount of time left on my countdown clock. They have no control on that. So I think these are the kind of questions that you need to ask yourself, like really big, deep questions. You basically have to motivate yourself to not care what other people think. You also got to think, are these the kind of people you want around? Because if you like hearing the negativity, they're going to stick around. If you don't care for the negativity, thankfully they'll disappear. Either they'll become positive or positive people will come and be attracted to you. So I would say the crowd that's negative, do you want them around? Because if you don't challenge them, they'll stay and they'll be there for the rest of your life. If you challenge them and go, hey, that's your opinion, thank you very much, keep it yourself because I'm going to keep going on my mission, either they'll leave or they will change to be, okay, let's support this guy. Maybe he has a point. Let's support this girl. Maybe she's going to make it. So I would say prepare and expect the negativity. It comes to everybody.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is work on your own self confidence and your own self esteem. And you do that by asking these big questions. Who do you live for? What are you waiting for? Is any of this even going to matter in a period of 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? If not, just get on with it. Don't wait for people.
Perfect. Perfect. I think that makes a lot more sense to me as well. And at the end of the day, as you said, it happens with everybody. And when you're putting yourself out there in this digital era, especially, you're bound to get in some negativity in the form of probably hate comments or people judging you, etc. But at the end of the day, again, as you said, it's about where you channelize your energy to and where you put in the focus. So yeah,
Yes,
I think yeah, that was a brilliant answer. So we have a lot of questions coming in, Dan. I'm gonna start taking them up from the audience, right?
I'm ready.
Um, Great. So the first question is from Mahima. She's asking you that I just wanted to tell you that I have the confidence to speak in front of an audience, but while I'm speaking, I fumble a lot. Like the speed of my speech delivery becomes very high. So how can I control that or get over it? That's a good question.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I would come back to some of the practical things that you should be doing pre-game. So this is your pre-game routine. Spend time breathing, spend time meditating, spend time praying, because the reason that your voice goes higher or that you speak faster or that you mumble on your words, you probably have noticed that I don't say very many or when I'm thinking or speaking. And that's simply because I'm super present. And the reason I'm super present is because of my pre-game routine. So spend the time on those things. When I go faster, it's because I'm controlling it, not because I'm nervous. When I go higher, it's because I'm excited, not because I'm out of control. So gain back control by praying, meditating, breathing exercises. I would also make sure that you use this amazing device, your phone, record yourself and listen to it, and record again and listen to it, because one, you can self-assess how you can improve. You don't have to wait till the event to go, oh, I didn't like the tone of my voice. You could have figured that out before. But also, the more you train your ear to hear how you want to sound, the more you'll actually move in that direction. I find this even with singers. You know, for an Indian guy, I actually sing more like a black guy. And the question is why? And simply because I'm heavily influenced by that music. So I love the way they sing. And the more I listen to that, the more I start sounding like that.
Hmm.
So start training your ear to hear a different version of yourself. And you do that by recording, hearing, recording, hearing. And that way, when you're on stage and you start talking really fast and really high and getting really, and you go, that's not how I sound. I got to slow. Why am I sounding like that? So you
Hmm.
can do that live. You can correct yourself live. So those are two quick tips on how you can change that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think that's spot on. Um, Akshi has a question for you. She's asking you, how do we get more audience online? Probably for the events or anything that you're hosting. I guess that is what she means. Yeah.
How do you get a larger audience online? So I would say everything from one-on-one invitations. It's no different. I know when people really want me to attend a wedding or a birthday, they'll come to my door and hand deliver a card and nuts, and you feel the pressure to show up then. So I would say everything from personal invitations. I'm not talking copy paste DMs and
Hmm.
copy paste messages. I'm saying personal, write to them, remind them of a memory or something that makes them know that that is actually an individual invitation, and then say, I'm doing this thing. Would you please join me? So everything from that to making sure you're doing ad spend, especially if it's online, you're going to have to spend some money to increase your audience beyond who you know,
Yeah.
right? So this is how you get the 1,000, 2,000 people is you got to do some targeted ad spend and everything in between. You know, find ambassadors for the event. There's only so many people you can invite, but if you can and task 10 other people. So, for example, a few people who are watching here are called the Igniters. And wherever I go, they follow. And they don't follow because they have to. None of them are getting paid to do it. It's because they want to be here. And the reason they want to be here is because any of those people can talk the way I do because they carry my same passion and purpose as much as I do. So it's nice for me to feel that support, but also I know that if I wanted the message to go farther, which I do, I just have to ask the Igniters. And I just say, hey, we're doing this thing. Can you support it? And they go, heck yeah, let's support it. So I would say find ambassadors who are with you or with your event and want to see you grow.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much for those tips, Dan. We have a question from Shivam. He's asking you, hey, Dan, what was your biggest fear professionally when you decided that you wanted to pursue this as your career? Another great question.
Yeah, I would. I'll be honest. I'll probably say money
Mhm.
because I didn't know anyone that made money from this.
Yeah.
So both the careers I did towards more recently, so one being a speaker and MC, and the second one being an entrepreneur, we don't have those people in our circles. So my parents were not able to connect me with any role models in the space. I did not have anyone in my LinkedIn or in my community that I could go up to and be like, hey, I'm starting a business. Can you coach me in it? So what's funny is nowadays everybody wants to do these things. But when I started doing these things, they were not necessarily what people wanted to do. And when I became an entrepreneur, it was in the middle of a recession. People just wanted jobs. They wanted security. They wanted safety. They wanted all that stuff. They didn't want to set up a business when
Yeah.
there was no economy. That's when I became an entrepreneur. I became a speaker kind of naturally, not because it was cool or anything of that sort. And I know that things have changed now. So I'd say my biggest concern was probably how do people make money out of this? And I learned it trial and error. There was no model. It's probably why I make good money from both of these is because I'm not following any blueprint. I'm kind of discovering new ways of doing it. I think I saw a question pop in as I was answering about how to monetize, so I'll leave that later. But
Mhm.
I'll say my biggest concern, I'll be honest about it. So even though I said money will follow you, it doesn't mean that you don't think about it. And I
Exactly.
was thinking like, how am I going to make money out of this? But for now, let me just keep following the purpose and see what happens. And then the money showed up.
Great, great, great. So, the next question here is from Samar. She's asking you, how do you calm yourself before you start public speaking?
Yep. Pre-game routine, same answer as before.
Before,
I
yeah, I
calm
think
myself by just doing a 30-minute ritual, a 60-minute ritual. Those who follow me online know I do this thing called the three G's. So it's not just when I'm on stage. Anytime you see me, you stop me on the street, you stop me in the stores, you stop me in church, wherever you spot me, you meet the same person, always energetic, always hopeful, always ready to give you time. And it's simply because I pre-game every day. Every day I'm playing this game. Every day I'm trying to be the best opponent. Opponent is the wrong word because it sounds like it's competitive. I'm trying to beat people at it. I try to be the best player in the game every single day. So I pregame every day. Every morning I have a morning routine. It's probably the master class that I do that's not available to the public. I don't know why. I should make it available to the public, but like Google, HP, all these big companies, I teach all their CEOs, vice presidents, senior leaders on routines because I firmly believe that routines is what sets people apart. So I coach them on morning routines, evening routines. People have trouble sleeping. I don't. It takes me less than 60 seconds to fall asleep every night. I can sleep on a plane upright, and I can show up as I have done. I've done an event in Switzerland, ended at 9 p.m., taken the train to the airport, flown to Dubai, slept on the plane for 4 hours, arrived at 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. check in at the hotel, 9 a.m. and back on stage and delivered. No issues at all. So it all comes down to routines because what I do from 8 to 9 makes a difference between Sleepy Dan and Energized Dan.
yeah,
What I do on that train as I go from one event to the airport, how I unwind or rewind is what makes all the difference. So routines, and I should make this, maybe that's 2021's
yeah,
2021's
you
goal is
should.
to make this available to the general audience. But the answer to the question as to how to be the best player in the game every day, not just when you're on stage, is simple. Rituals and routines. That's it.
I think, yeah, that makes all the difference. Um, Coming to Nikita's question, when you mentioned don't run after money, let money follow you. How did you plan to monetize your skills?
Yeah, so I didn't plan to monetize, but now that we have the benefit of hindsight, I can tell you how I monetize now. But
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan starting off. Starting off, I was like, oh, here's an invitation, let me go do it. And so the way I monetize now is I get paid as an MC. So that's the biggest chunk of money is for a day. So it doesn't matter if the event is 3 hours, 2 hours, or 8 hours. I charge for the day because on that day I'm there for them. So it's all inclusive. Doesn't matter if it's a panel that I'm moderating. Doesn't matter if it's the opening that I'm doing. It doesn't matter if it's a one-on-one interview. I'm yours for the day, and
Hmm.
I charge for that. Then I have a bunch of add-on services which can double or triple the full amount, right? So it's more like a menu card. And so if you want me to advertise your event on social media, there's an additional fee. And people want that because I've got a pretty large network now. Second, how people find out about an event on my social media is because I have my own content creators. I have my own videographers, photographers, graphic designers. And so I can use my team at a fee to the client to create amazing content. Also, our content, in all these things, you got to find out your competitive advantage, right? You cannot be like anyone else. So, as an MC, I guess what I'm playing on is diversity. I'm a brown guy. I often wear Indian outfits like what I'm doing right now. But I speak with an American accent and I intimately know the startup space. It's why I'm not hosting, say, a shoe company because I don't know that much about shoes, but I know a lot about tech because I was in that space, right?
Right.
And so my competitive advantage is the diversity in a known space. And
Right.
it's the same with social media. Tons of people creating content online, but only my team can show up to a live event, record, edit, and publish within about 60 minutes. Most events, their marketing will show after 4 days on an annual report or a newsletter or a press conference what happened. And my argument is 4 days later, people don't care. They've moved on to the next event. I'm the only person at an event, and I'm telling you this, I'm the only person at an event that is posting content 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes after it happens. No one else can go that fast. So social media is another thing that I charge on. Then comes all the consulting. Because I host 100 events a year and not just one or two, event organizers who only organize one or two events a year want to know from the information that I have what's happening around the world. And so I charge for the consultations. And then I go, hey, my job is to make people look good. I can do that on stage, but I can do that better if I prepare them. So if we do some speaker training, I can make sure that your VP of sales or your CEO does the best presentation, and I charge for that. So as you can see, it's like a menu card. There's a bunch of things I figured out. What are my additional skills that I can charge for? And then each client decides and goes, okay, we need Dan. That's a certain amount of money. We didn't realize how valuable Dan can be to the whole ecosystem. And that's how double, triple of my original fees. So I come in low and they go, what? That's all it costs to get you because you're such a big brand. And I go, yeah, to do the basics. But do you want me to just show up and leave? Or do you want all this additional value? And everybody wants the additional value. Nobody wants the least from Dan when they've got me, right? And so then they go, yep, let's do that. And that's how you add it up.
Perfect. Perfect. I think that I wouldn't call it a strategy, but I would just say that's just amazing because people will always want more. And if you're giving them value addition, then they'd want to take it up, even though it costs them the money because they're getting the value that you're adding in. And I think, yeah, that's how they
Precisely.
tick off all the boxes, right? That I want this, and this. Exactly. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, we have a question from Dhruvi: how to be prepared for an instant speech and how to settle the mind for instant things.
I don't believe in anything instant when you're always ready. Do you think when a football player is on the pitch, on the football field, that when the ball shows up at their feet, which is of course instant, right?
Mhm.
That they go for the first time in their lives, I wonder who I should kick it to, or I wonder how hard to kick the ball. Never. They have practice and practice and practice those moves so many times.
Yeah.
It's just like today, very rarely do I have questions that I'm totally unprepared for. So every story I told you, I have used those stories before. The
Yeah.
question is just how I use that story, right? So I have a story of how I was attacked by a lion when I was a child. I use that story to talk about confronting fear. I use that story to talk about strategy when making decisions. I use that story to talk about self-confidence. I use that story in so many different ways, but I know the story. It's the same with how to prepare to be on stage. I didn't come up for the first time in today's session what my pregame ritual is. I know this stuff. I just think about how I use it to be effective. Just like a football player on a field, they know the ball, they know the shoe. It's not the first time they're putting on the shoe or touching that ball. It's just how do you use that? How do you make that contact? So for me, I'd say there is no instant. There's nothing instantaneous. There's nothing spontaneous. Even the jokes I make are rehearsed, are practiced, are attempted. So the best way to be prepared to answer your question is to anticipate, is to imagine opportunities and practice it. There's nothing stopping you in the morning or late at night when you're brushing your teeth to give yourself a question and go, if I was asked to stand in front of my team and share the 2020 highlights, what would I say? There's nothing stopping you from going through that process and then work through that speech, figure it out. So yeah, that's what I would say is even in the craziest situations. I remember I was introducing Jessica Alba,
Yeah.
one of the most famous Hollywood actresses out there, a formidable businesswoman,
Yeah.
very recognized person. Now, she was causing some diva moments backstage, which my 8,000 people in front of me could not know. And I was hosting it. And in an attempt to engage them while we were helping her diva-ness reduce, my belt broke. And my belt involves not just keeping my trousers up, but for any speaker, there's a lot of equipment that we use. We use in-ear monitors, we use microphones, we use headsets, we use communicate, and all of those backpacks are on the belt.
Okay.
And so that also meant I lost my communication. So not only were my trousers about to fall off, but I was also losing communication. That was probably one of the wildest moments. But even then, I knew what to do. If I didn't have a mic, how can I communicate with 8,000 people? If I could not communicate to my producer, how do I keep the stage going? If the speaker was not showing up on time like she was, what are the things I can do with the audience? Not only did I have those planned, but I also had communicated with my team because in that moment, what we did is we decided to do this really cool thing at large events where you shut off all the lights and everyone puts on their phone
Yeah.
lights. And
Yeah.
I give a little talk and I talk about how collectively we are a bright light, but it still involves everyone putting on their light. Because if only 5 or 6 people do it, even in a big hall, even with 5,000 people, there is no light. Now,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, they're like, wow, what an amazing speech. How did you come up with that? I practiced that in my head so many times. I was waiting for my trousers to fall off. I was waiting for a diva speaker to not show up on stage. I was actually honestly excited by that really crazy moment. Anyone else would have freaked out because they're unprepared. So the way to prepare for an instantaneous moment is to be always prepared.
Perfect. I think I can't add anything more. It's perfect. Um, Akshi is asking you, what should you do when your audience is not interacting with you? I think that's a good question.
Yeah, try something different. Every audience is different. I know when I am in Eastern Europe,
Hmm.
they really hate dancing and singing. But I know when I'm in India, they really love dancing and singing. I know when I'm in the US, they love to laugh. I know when I'm in Western Europe, especially business crowds, they're not coming to laugh and be entertained. They're coming to learn. And
Learn.
so it's all about doing things differently. And so it's just like a stand up comedian. If a joke falls flat, that's okay. Try a different joke and keep going. So I would say have a couple different tools, a couple different ways of approaching audience engagement. There isn't just one way to do it. Like, for example, on Zoom right now, where we all are, I could, but I didn't because you're doing such an amazing job at hosting that I'm like, we got the questions coming. I don't have to do anything. But I've been interviewed by people that are not as engaging as you are. And so I would have said, hey, tell me right now, where are you? Drop it in the comment section
Yeah.
because that's a tool I can use to get the engagement. I also know that in Zoom, we can do audience reactions. So I could say, everyone, I'm on gallery view right now. If you agree with me, put an applause sign, right? There's so many tools. Now, some people don't want to type out questions, so we'll go at reactions. Some people don't want to pick reactions or they don't know where it is, so we'll do a pop-up poll. I mean, say just click yes or no. So
Right.
even in Zoom, there are so many ways to interact with people. But again, like I said, you're doing a good job of interacting, so I don't have to be a host. I can just answer your questions. But even for me, I come prepared that if you were not doing such a good job hosting, as I've done with other hosts, I will kind of take over. I'll both answer the questions and I'll host my own interview.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. I think you're multitasking then. Great. Okay. Kavita is asking you, how can we improve on our presence of mind, especially for impromptu speeches? So Dan, I guess you did answer the part wherein you should be more prepared. However, there are some speeches where you are supposed to be going on stage and just being spontaneous and impromptu. So what about those
Yeah.
scenarios?
Okay. So I would say there, what I do is always think about the end first. So, what's the goal of why I'm speaking? Then I try to think of one compelling anecdote because stories always help and stories give me a time to come up with my conclusion statement. So, give me a random topic for something I never think about. So, for example, the role of Diwali and climate change. Okay, so we just made that up. What I would think is there's a million ways you can take that conversation. So I think, what's the goal? And I would say, okay, maybe the goal is to make people more aware of their individual behavior.
Hmm.
And then I immediately think of what's a good story I can share. So maybe I'll share about this Diwali, right? Because then when I start sharing, I say, even in the middle of a pandemic, what really surprised me is that people met together, which they're not supposed to do, and they lit fireworks, and not just one or two, not symbolic, but they went and bought tons and tons. And as I talk about that, as I'm doing right now, I might start thinking, but it brought them joy. And I understand that, especially in a tough year, you want to have an outlet and let out steam. Also, they probably bought it because it's cheap. And with everyone being in the house all the time, to go on a holiday to Goa is another way to let out steam, but that's not affordable. Whereas fireworks is affordable. And so that's probably an easy way to entertain. So as I'm giving that story, which is easy for me to do and helps you connect with me because anyone who's watching right now probably has had a similar reaction. So we're building empathy. I'm coming up with some thoughts. And so I go, okay, why do people do fireworks? Because they need to let out steam. They need to relax a little bit. But part of the problem there is it's cheap. So then I can come up with, and usually I come up with points. And sometimes, and I'll tell you a secret, I will tell you I've got three things and I don't have three things. I'm making it up as I go. But it helps me structure and it helps the audience structure. Because if I just start saying blah, 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 it goes on and on. So at that point in the story, I'll say, so there's probably three conclusions I want to draw from it. Conclusion number one is people want cheap, affordable ways to let out steam. One way to reduce consumption is to increase the price or the taxes involved with fireworks. Second conclusion is that people deserve happiness. You cannot take away people's happiness. So whatever you feel about fireworks, remember that people deserve and they are entitled to joy. So can we find alternative ways to bring them joy? Which brings me to my final point. Third point is Diwali is meant to be fun. We got to bring fun. So everybody, let's focus on environmentally friendly, cheap alternatives to fireworks that still lights up our sky, that still gives people that euphoria of, wow, look at all these lights, but does not involve fireworks. Let's go. So I made those three things up, but it helps structure. Now, they're not the three greatest points in the world, but at least it gave a little bit of structure to it. So that's what I'd say. Start with the end. Find a story and start telling the story. As you tell the story, start developing your points, and then just commit and say, I've got two things I want to tell you. Or I've only got one thing I want to say from this. Or I got 3 points I want to make, and then focus on getting those 3 points.
Perfect. Great. I hope that really helps you, Kavita. That was very well structured, Dan. I guess we have this one last question from Nikita, which I'd like to take up. She's asking you, did you have a team that helped you? Did you have a team when you that helped you identify your monetization skills? Basically, was there a team behind helping you identify that your skills could be monetized, probably, or was it all which what did it come in voluntarily and you just figured it out?
So I'm very fortunate that I did economics at Yale University. I did an MBA at Trinity College. And in addition to that, I'm always reading business books. I'm always consuming this content. So I think a lot of it is observed.
Hmm.
I see other people doing it and I go, ooh, I should try that too. I'd say this year, after having built a successful emceeing business, I started bringing on people. I had the extra funds to bring on people who could be more experimental. So I have an amazing guy on my team who just comes up with the most amazing concept, like the Start Now, Start Simple Awards. Now, that currently just cost me money, cost me a lot of money to run that program, because even small things like designing the pictures has to go to a graphic designer. That money has to come from somewhere. And then we're going to have an award ceremony, and that's going to cost money. But because I'm passionate about it, because I'm passionate about celebrating other people, I have no doubt that maybe not the first year, maybe not the second year, but maybe the third year, some big company will go, this is great. Let's sponsor this. Let's get involved.
Yeah.
And so I have people now on my team who come up with these extra ideas. And so that's really cool. But I would say all of the foundations and fundamentals I built myself. And this is why I love to coach founders on this, because I can probably break it down faster than having like external people come into your business, do a full audit, blah, 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 and then say, you can try these 10 things. So I'd say all of the foundations and fundamentals I built, and then all the accessories now, which could become their own separate business, but right now they just kind of accessorized elements. You know, it's not the core of my business. Is
Got
coming
it.
from some amazing people on my team.
Brilliant. So I think Akshi said that she really loved the line, it's not instant when you're always prepared. And Kavita says, thank you so much. I'll definitely use these tips to improve myself in the upcoming sessions. So I think we've had a wonderful, amazing time, Dan. Thank you so much for taking out the time and bringing in the energy, enthusiasm, and just everything around the way you answered the questions and involve the audience as well. I think they've learned a lot about probably, building their career as an MC, monetizing their business, having a great team, coming up with ideas, dealing with cold feet and whatnot. So thank you so much, Dan. Is there anything that you would probably want to sign off with? Any closing notes? Anything?
I exist to help you. And so if I can support in public speaking, in finding new opportunities, in getting a job, in exploring anything, what I want to do is help you find your purpose. That's why I keep coming with Start Now, Start Simple. I'm very accessible on social media. You get personal responses from me, whatever it might be. Even if I don't know you, even if I don't follow you back, if you drop me a DM, I will see it. and I will respond to it. So please connect with me. It's just at I am Dan Ram on anything. I post a lot of free content daily, and I'm very honest about stuff. You're not just going to get the highlight reel of my life. You will get everything. I don't want to pretend like life is easy or uncomplicated. It is not. And so do connect with me online. Don't be shocked if you message me and you get a response back. Don't be shocked if you even just drop me a comment and I'll comment back. I always try to remember that there are real people behind every comment. There's real people behind every like. It's not a numbers game for me. So if I can help you with Start Now, Start Simple in your own life, let me know. If I can celebrate you, the Start Now, Start Simple Awards is not for the celebrity high profile people that I hang out with. It's for everybody who is on track to helping do the best with their own lives. And so there is no success metric with the Start Now, Start Simple Awards. It's simply, did you dare to start something this year in entrepreneurship, public speaking, creativity, or community impact? In those four categories, did you dare to try to do something positive in the world? If you started, then write into us. Everything you can find on the website, iamdanram.com. But besides that, thank you to everyone who's watching, for everyone asking questions. And again, thank you so much for doing such an amazing job hosting this last 1 hour. This has been fun.
Thank you so much, Dan. I'm great. I'm really glad that you really enjoyed. Thank you so much for taking out your time. And yes, I think that's just been one amazing hour that we've spent. And yeah, have a great weekend ahead, Dan. I wish you, a very, let's say, an advanced Merry Christmas and a great year, which is going to come ahead. And I look forward to your awards, the Start Now, Start Simple awards as well. I'll probably drop in my application. I think I spoke to you on LinkedIn as well. I'll do that for sure. Thanks for reminding me.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Thank you all. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye, Dan.